I don't like these having the vacation time and sick time in there. In fact, this is one of the things I wanted to take out when I wanted to change council's pay. So I'm on board with that part for sure. As far as what the actual salary would be, I'm okay with that as it is, or somebody can come up with a different number. But as far as eliminating the vacation and sick time, I'm on board with that. That's it.
Okay, we'll move on to the last piece then. An ordinance amending certain sections of the administrative code to provide adjustments in compensation for employees of the city other than elected officials or those covered under negotiated labor contracts. And this came with a chart of various changes in salaries. Would you like to tell us how you, well, I guess, how you came up with these and explain the rationale behind them?
Thank you, Chairwoman. First thing I'd like to point out about the legislation is the proposal that is out there, the proposed legislation would not take effect until April 1st of this year. That was intended to give council the time to take a look at it and not make any changes to the people that are working right now, so that there would be nothing that if we're going to make concessions, that there would be any view that they'd be owing the city money back for that they might have been overpaid in the first 3 months. So I want to make sure that we understand that changes won't take effect until April 1st of this year if it's passed before then. That was my proposal. The other aspect deals with, as you know, we have a minimum and maximum pay range. I took a look at it. The chart kind of shows it a little bit differently because in addition to the annual rate, it was listed there as a bi-weekly rate. So it kind of gives you an idea of what their bi-weekly rate would be under the new rate. Is there an actual formula for it? I would say that what it does is it recognizes, once again, the reductions to the services that the residents have had to incur, the reductions to the employees that we've had in the various departments. But one of the things this does is, many years ago, and I would ask council, maybe the committee, to do a little bit of the research, is over the years there have been changes that have been made to the work week for these employees. There have been changes that have been made where they've gotten significant increases with title changes. And again, the approach that I took to this was if we are going to change the way we provide services to the community, then I think we need to take a look at how we change the compensation provided to some of these positions. For example, the change to the work week, it used to be a time when the employees worked a 40-hour work week, and they had an hour off of an unpaid lunch. The change was made that kept them at the 40 hours scheduled, but gave them an hour off as paid lunch. So they went from working basically 40 hours a week down to 35 hours a week. That had a significant cost to the city. I'm looking to, part of the way I looked at this was taking back half of that, and instead of it being, for an example, what I took was if you took an annual salary and divided it by the 2,080 hours, you'd come up with the hourly rate. But what I did then is take the 35-hour work week, and multiplied it actually by 37 and a half hours, because I said, we'll give them a half-hour paid lunch, and the other half hour that they're off would be unpaid. So it's less of a reduction. I felt that if we took it all back at once, it was too much to ask for. But the fact that I didn't look at it that asking them to give back a half an hour out of every day in pay was too much, because for the last 10, 15 years, they've had that perk that we can no longer, in my mind, we can no longer afford that perk for them. So that was one of the ways, one of the aspects I looked at. The other aspect, like I said, there were over the period of time, there were different pay raises, wage increases that were provided to different positions, simply because of title changes or some duty requirements. However, over the time, even some of those duties have been reduced because of the way we are providing services. There are some services that we no longer provide, that some of these people are being paid to supervise. So again, it's just a matter of the way I looked at it was there's a lot of positions that have to deal with here. I was looking to make those changes. There are a couple positive changes. I was suggesting, that the minimum that we had for some of the hourly rates, we actually had a minimum of $7.70, and I'm proposing to increase that to, I don't think if you work, I think if you work for the city of Brook Park, you should be paid no less than $10 an hour for your time. I think that's a good start. There's been a push throughout the nation to get to a $15 an hour rate for some of these people, for the people that work hourly. I was looking to start it at $10 because even though it's a $15 an hour push, it's supposed to be phased in, and I think some of these positions, $10 an hour would be adequate. The other area that I'm looking to make a rather significant change to deals with our commission members. As you can see, they basically were paid, rounding it off, about $2,700 a year for the commission seats. What I did is I went through, and I would suggest council members do that also. I went through the minutes from the last year for many of those meetings. Found out that they don't really meet. They meet once a month, but sometimes the meetings only last 5 or 10 minutes for that month. So I thought if we're paying them $2,700 a year, it comes to about $260 a month. And I think $260 for a 10-minute meeting is a rather steep cost. So I was looking to say we should have a pay range for that between $50 to $75, somewhere in that for the month. I think that provides enough compensation for the time that they put into it without it being too much time.
Yeah, I'm probably being redundant, but how are we going to be continue to evaluate these? Are we going to, as a council, trying to get this information, or are we going to have our finance committee do it, or how are we going to do it?
I actually have an information request out to a number of communities in Cuyahoga County, speaking to some of these titles, not all of them, so we can be kind of comparable. Also asked for their other information, like their tax rate, tax credits, population, median income, so we can compare them, kind of get a good idea of how they compare.
Yeah, that was okay. That was.
We don't have all that information.
Okay, so we're working towards that. Yeah, because every community is different. Are we going to be talking about other, like you said, other communities with the same basic population possibly?
See, I looked at a range. So what I found is, so far, some cities that are larger than ours are paying less for certain positions, and maybe some smaller ones are paying more. So it's kind of interesting.
In that vein,
I'll share it with you guys later, when it's more complete.
Well, in that vein, some of the cities that may be paying less for certain, let's say, service director, whatever, let's say service director, are we looking at what services they provide for that community? Because some may provide very little, and maybe they earn less because they have less responsibilities. Are we looking at that too?
You're still in the process of gathering information. And I had gotten that started because I knew we were going to be looking at the budget and some of these issues might come up. Jill, did you have any comments on?
No, I don't, other than, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to look at all this stuff and gather the information. I appreciate that.
If I could just make one comment, something that stands out, which is pretty obvious, but well, I know that the fire chief and police chief are pretty much the same, minus $9, and the safety director is like 44% less. I think it's $53,000, something like that. The thing that kind of jumps out at me is our jailer is making the same amount as our safety director, and I'm just wondering how that can be. Are you looking at a part-time position? Or?
No. As you know, Councilman, there's an ordinance in the book that is, the verbiage of it is that the safety director's position is a full-time position.
Okay.
So that full-time position status would provide health care and other costs that the city would be incurring. One of the things I looked at over the past few years is that many communities around, the mayor actually performs the duties of the safety director. And it's like, well, plus the fact that we have, like, as you said, we have a police chief and a fire chief. they also have, the fire department has an assistant fire chief, and on the police side, that administration is a police captain. So there's two people in police administration, and there's two people in the fire administration to look over those shrunken departments. We've reduced both of those services, both of the service levels of the roster there. But they're managing their department. So we have two people managing each department, and it's my belief that the workload doesn't exist for the safety director to provide that type of compensation we've been providing. We had the luxury before when we had money to do that. I don't think we have that luxury anymore. I'm not saying eliminate the position or make it part-time. The mayor can still have his safety director that will be provided all the full benefits of being an employee. I just don't think that the compensation level can be justified anymore.
Just another thought. I know that some communities that have reduced salaries, and there has been some legal ramifications, and maybe our moderator to know more about that. I'm wondering, are we opening up ourselves up to something like that if we're reducing, and I know we have the right to do that, authority to do that, but do we have the expertise to know how, time management and all the details of each job classification to make a judgment as far as what they should make? And I'm just wondering about that. Would it be an idea, do you think, that maybe have a disinterested third party come in and do it, so that they can do it and recommend to us what they find, and maybe we, council, can look at that and act upon those recommendations, and we wouldn't really have to actually agree with them, but we would get the input from a third party? Do you think that might be a way to do it too?
I mean, Councilman, I don't have any strict guidelines. I basically have introduced this legislation. It's in your guys' committee to review it, come up with any questions. If you have questions to the law director about procedures like that, the committee can do the committee work.
I appreciate that.
And then you can come back at some point and be placed on the caucus agenda so that you can talk to the council as a whole. I mean, this is day one of this. It's only January 12th. We're just getting started, so I don't think we have all the answers. And you're going to come up with a lot of good questions, and we'll find out those questions.
I think that's fair. I probably will consult our law director and maybe our finance director about other communities that have done that, and I know that some law firms do that, maybe some colleges do that, and that's what they do that a lot. In fact, I just read that Parma is going to be having a performance review, like an audit. I think that a lot of the residents kind of demanded that, and some members of council in the past demanded that they do so. And I think they are going to. And I think they voted on it yesterday, so I'm not sure if they voted yes or no, but they were going to consider that, have a performance review of the city and other finances. And one of the members, I think the auditor, I think Brian Day, said that they would actually think they'd save money by doing this. So it'd probably be more of an investment in the city. So that's just something I'm throwing out there. So.
I have one question. If all of these were accepted as is, the reductions and whatnot, do you have a figure of how much this would save us in total?
I don't have a hard figure for you because I felt that there would probably be changes that would be made by council members on different things. But I would put it in the range of, I think if all these changes came in, the city would probably reduce payroll by $150,000 to $200,000, somewhere in that range. Again, I didn't sharpen the pencil and put everything down because this is just, like I said, this is just the beginning of it. But I think it's somewhere in that range, and I think that type of a savings may give us an opportunity to do some things, do other things within the city.
Yeah, questions and comments. On the committees, there was always a set cost or a set salary per se. And now you're doing an hourly, which I don't disagree with. But is there a reason to do the $52.75 instead of just having one salary, one cost?
Well, the first thing is, I mean, there is not an hourly, it's written per month. But it's that amount per month. It's a range that's there. If council, if this committee wants to come out with a recommendation to just set it at a certain number, that's your prerogative. I put it in a range that way. It's your choice to set that.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth on that because I believe that, I don't know, it's hard to do, and there's only really one other committee that maybe